Right, welcome back to the video series on this 1983 Fender Strat, the very strange one with a weird bridge and one volume, one tone. So if you remember the last part of the video, I had just replaced 4 frets from a Refret, and I was going to get the guitar or the neck ready to do the fret leveling. But before I can do the fret leveling, I've got to make sure that all these edges where I've done, if you want to have a zoom in there, I've actually done the beveling. What I need to do is I'm going to remove this tape, which has never been feet in itself. I'm going to remove the tape, and what I need to do is I need to file or sand these edges where the frets are still sticking out ever so slightly. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take it over to my other bench over there, where I've got my vise, my guitar vise. I'm going to be clamping this in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to file by hand this edge and this edge, and I'm probably going to finish it with a leveling beam just to sand it ever so lightly with probably some 400 grit paper until we're very close, till we're just touching the lacquer, because I don't want to remove the lacquer because I don't want to have to respray it. So I'm going to be very careful. So I'm going to remove this tape. Now this will not be super easy because I glued the frets in. Any glue spillage would have spilled out onto the tape, and that tends to toughen the tape up just a little bit. So as I peel this off, you'll see it just rips and splits just there, and then I've got to get into between the frets to get it all off nice and neat. And we'll leave some bits of residue here and there. It does happen. That will peel off really easily because we actually taped round where the frets need to be. So I'm going to crack on with this. If you give me 10 or 15 minutes, I'm sure I will have this all off, and I will come back and show you where we are. And here we are with the tape off, and we've done a little bit of cleanup. I think you'll agree that that looks absolutely fabulous. But you're seeing it from a little bit of a distance, and you're seeing it on the video. Now, the problem with this now is, well, it's not so much problem. We've still got them edges just there, just sticking out just that little bit. And you see my dilemma now, you see, because we've not gone into the lacquer. There might be one little mark there where the lacquer was protruding a little bit. And again, same on this side. So we had a bit of extra build-up of lacquer there because I've not cut in any more than I would have done on anywhere else. So that was extra lacquer on my side there. Now, I'll tell you straight away, the lacquer on top of this was slightly tinted, I believe, because it's taken nothing here to remove a bit of that staining away. It might have even been there when I got the guitar, and at the top, when I was radiusing the fingerboard, just taking off them rough edges to get the new frets in, and I went over lightly with a radius beam, and these edges you took out straight away, and there was only like one layer of lacquer on the top of this board. I'm not going to do anything about that. I will stain it if I can. Same again with this bit here, but the most important thing is about getting this all level. Now that bumps out there, it also bumps out here slightly, just ever slightly. That's why that's been caught. These edges are still sticking out ever so slightly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hand file these, because like I say, if you look at the profile of the deck there, these edges come up, instead of going straight up, they actually come over, so it's like a C, more like a closed C shape. Can you imagine that? And it's just coming over there. So I'm going to do this with a hand file. I'm going to put this, I'm going to strap it all up, get it well covered and protected, and I'm going to put this in the vise. We'll just have the top off that, and I'll go across with a hand file in long strokes just to get this as close to the lacquer as I possibly can. I'll do final polishing on the lacquer. I'll start with 1200 feet, or I'll probably even start with 1500 grit sandpaper and just smooth this lacquer in rather than have to respray it. I'm still very pleased with how this is going to come out. I know it's going to come out brilliant. Very nice job, and certainly it's going to be a lot better than it was. Maybe I could give you more of an idea. If you look closely at these edges here, they don't go straight, they actually come in and curl over. And that's why the other luthier, the guy who did this before, could not be bothered to do that, because you've got to angle the file. But they are, I mean, it's not even a 1/10 of a millimetre. So that's my main job today, is to get this done. Get these really super smooth. Once that's done, I'll get my neck all taped up again, and I'll go and do the levelling, and we can get on with the re-crowning. Now I've got a full day at this tomorrow. If I need it, I will get a bit of a nip on today anyway, but I've also got to finish I've got a nice Les Paul that I'm working on at the moment to be finished as well. So it's not critical for me to work too hard on this today. I still want to get this done, and I want to get it all taped up ready for fret leveling, and that will give me all day Friday and Saturday to finish this one off, because the guy's not coming for it until Sunday. So plenty of time, doing really, really well. Just want to keep you up to date with the stages, with where we are and what we are doing regarding this. So what can I tell you? Cosmetically, it's not going to be perfect. It's not perfect anyway, but I will get it as close to perfect as I can. But I think it's more about functionality and definitely more about getting these frets in right. They've got it right from the top, and I've got the bevels right, absolutely perfect. Now I've just got to be a bit careful when I'm doing this cosmetic side here. I mean, if it has to go in for a respray, it has to go in for a respray, but I'd rather not do that because it's going to save the owner a little bit of money. You know, it's quite expensive to go and get this resprayed. Or it's not so much that it's expensive, it's just an extra charge on top that we could do with that. So I'm going to crack on. I might come back and show you a little bit more, so stay tuned. Back soon. So this neck gets more complicated the further along we go. Not because it is complicated, it's, I mean, what I have done is I have beveled right to the edge these frets both sides. But there has been a development in this, and I've talked to Ashley, and he wants it because the lacquer was so bad on this. I mean, what's happened is it's been lacquered, but only the final coat has been lacquered with tint. So as I've sanded and filed these frets down here, you see here, it's moved back one coat of lacquer, and it's gone, it's white. So we are going to have to re-lacquer this fingerboard. I've talked to Ashley about it, he's absolutely fine with it, he says let's get it right. But he wants it colour matching. Now the thing is, to colour match this properly, we need to remove the frets, we need to sand everything off. I've been talking to Clive Eastwood at Beaver Guitars, who does all my lacquer work, or any paint work I have, he does. And he said the only way to properly colour match that is, basically, to remove the frets, so we can sand everything down. I says, well, I'm not taking the frets out, I've only just put them in. He says, okay, fair enough, I understand that. So what we're going to do is, I am going to stain this myself. And Mr. Eastwood has said to me, he says, listen, what you need to do is, I need you to strip, not strip the lacquer off, he says, but I need you to rough that lacquer up with some sandpaper, either some fine sandpaper or some steel wool. And it's what I've done. And if you look at this side, I've just done where I've filed the bevels. There you go, you see it? It's all white there. I've hardly removed any material at all. So what I'm doing is I'm going with some steel wool and I am de-shining this. If you look at this side, I've done this side. Shine's just about gone. This side has still got the shine. So I'm going to go with some wire wool. I could do something a bit coarser than this, and I'm going to remove the shine off the lacquer. Now I've told Ashley I'm doing this, and you'll see the colour of this lacquer on here. Look at this. There you go. Stained lacquer. Put another top coat or two. So you'll see this start getting lighter and lighter as I do it. Okay, this ain't going to take me long, but I've been good charging for this because, you know, he's paying to have a guitar, have a neck lacquered anyway. You know, and Clive, he's got to charge his rate, and I've got to get it over there, and I've got to pick it up. I mean, that's 15 quid in fuel. So it all starts to mine up. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to de-shine this whole neck. And I'm going to stain it as close as I can. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to stain it lighter than it needs to be. And I'm going to build it up. And I've also got to make sure it's all dry for Sunday, because it'll be going into Clive Sunday. And I've got to match it up best I can, and I'm going to do that. I'll move some areas here. So it's not a pain in the butt. I mean, Clive says just spray over it, leave it. He says, because it will darken a bit anyway with spray. He says, but you can just like vintage playwear and that. I said, no, I don't want that. He wants to colour match. So we are going to go. Now Clive will be using various colours of lacquer over the week. Maybe it'll be using some coloured clear coat. I know Clive will make a better job of this. But he's told me he will do. You know, I know he's doing it to keep costs down, he's charging me a certain rate, blah 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 blah. But I know he'll make a better job of this than I'm expecting, because it's how he is, he's like that, he's a perfectionist. So anyway, I'm going to remove the shine off the lamp. Already nearly there, look, we're doing fine there. I'm going to get this side all done. take me an hour or two. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to level these frets. The bevels are all done, the edging's all done. You're not catching your fingers anywhere down here anymore. If you want to zoom in and see how it, what I was on about, how it comes over at the top. And it comes over and in. That's why I've had to do it all by hand. But that's it. I mean, I'm still really enjoying doing this job. Very satisfying to you know, start a job and see it to completion and see how pleased the customer is when he gets hold of it. So rather than make this video stupidly long-winded and me keep moaning about stuff, I'm going to crack on with the work. I'm not going to film me leveling the frets or anything. You don't need to see that. You've seen it all before. I'm just going to get it all prepared. I'm going to put a blank nut in there before it's resprayed. And what we'll do is we'll tape over the nut and we'll tape over the frets with some 3mm tape that we use. And we'll get this all resprayed, and I'll come back and give an update once we've got the spraying done, and we'll get everything else done, get all the guitar set up and blah blah blah. So back to this problem with this neck, and you'll see now problem I've got, because we're sanding these edges of these frets and get it all smooth. We're absolutely not sticking out because there's only a thin or a small 1 or 2 layers of lacquer on there. The lacquer's removed, and the lacquer was actually cracking. Now I found out also that this guitar was, or this neck was badly cracked when Ashley took it to the luthier I mentioned. It's in a really bad way, and so he paid to have this re-lacquered. He was offered to do it this vintage honey colour. He didn't ask for it, and he took it on board. And now the thing is, we've done this, we did this in a haphazard way, or half-arse way if you want, if you like, and he's just coated it, just sprayed it with 1 or 2 coats of like a honey, vintage honey colour. You see where it's just come off there, just with gentle rubs on these sides. Now it's my job now to try and match this. I'm going to go and buy some stain tomorrow, and I've worked another 3 hours on this today, which I'm not charging for. I've done this off my own steam. I should have been working, I should have been finishing off that Greco today, polishing the frets, but I haven't done that. I've stayed on this, and I've took all this off with wire wool, steel wool, fine grade steel wool, just smooth everything. I'll take all the shine off everywhere for it to be resprayed. The only thing I've not done is the fingerboard, because to do that with wire wool I need to be going that way, and it's going to be so hard to do it. I am going to do it, but it's going to be really difficult. Ideally, if I hadn't got the frets in, I could have just sanded the whole lot and we could have just resprayed it, absolutely no problem. But because I've got frets in, and I'm not going to take them out again and put them in again, because this is a beautiful job. I mean, they're not catching anywhere down the sides, absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to go and get some wood stain tomorrow, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be staining these areas, and I'm going to blend it in best I can. I told Ashley, I said it might not be perfect, but it will be better. It would have been an idea. I've had one of my clients drop in today, and we had a good chat for half an hour, and he says, why don't you just take all this varnish off here, because it will play a lot better. I said, well, I know it will, but the client doesn't want that. The owner of the guitar doesn't want that. He wants it all the same colour. So we're going to have to go, we're going to have to maintain this colour. So I'm going to go and buy some stain. Again, luckily, I mean, stain is something I can use again in the future, so it's £7 a tin, and it's something I can use, so I'm not exactly wasting my money. But here, sanding it down, or steel wool, it's just, look, it's gone through with the lacquer, and it's smooth as anything. It's just that badly sprayed, and it's only had a couple of coats on top. Maybe it's had 3 coats, I don't know. But it's my job to get this all dulled up. You can't spray over shiny lacquer when we're doing it from scratch. So again, I'll spend another couple of hours on this, getting it right. So once that's done, probably in the morning, I'll come back, give you another update, and then I'll end this part of the video. This will be part 3. This video is going to be a lot longer now than it was intended to be. By rights, now I should have the frets levelled, re-crowned, and I should be ready for polishing. But because we're going for a respray, of which I'm not charging any extra, he's paying, the owner of this guitar is paying for the respray. That's nothing to do with me. But I'm not charging him for the extra work I've done, which is probably an extra, another extra, or another 3 hours, probably even, well, maybe even 5 hours. Try him, I won't charge him, you know, at the end of the day. I've caught up with my work this week. You know, it's not that I've got spare time on my hands, it's, you know, it's just how I am. I'll just get it sorted out. So, come get some stain in the morning, probably go with some teak stain, and probably a bit darker than it needs to be, but it will work on these edges, because these edges, they're not white because I've stained them a little bit. I've only gone with a little bit of turmeric, it's all I've got in. I thought of getting crayons and colouring it in. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get some proper wood stain, some Rustin's wood dye tomorrow, and we'll see what we can do and match it up best we can. Right, I did skip on a bit with this guitar, and for some reason I haven't filmed anything. We decided, well, I did the fret levelling, the re-crowning and the polishing of the frets, but somewhere between me doing that, in a communicado with Ashley, we decided that we were going to go for a respray, complete respray, rather than try and match anything up. He didn't like the vintage colour anyway. He said it was done more or less against his wishes when he got the guy who refretted it to refret it, and they suggested a vintage lacquering, and it's what it got. And you see, with all it coming off, when I was working on the edge of the frets, it made it, you know, it made it like we've got to, best thing to do is just get it all off and respray it from the start. Now, in hindsight, would have been better if we'd done it before we put the frets in, because it makes it so difficult to get between. I've got to go between these frets and sand between these frets and get all this lacquer off, and that makes the job a lot more difficult. I'm doing this part of the job for nothing, just because, you know, and I expect it to take 3 to 5 hours. It's going to take a lot longer, because getting between the frets is quite difficult, as you will see in a later video, which I'm going to insert into this whole series shortly. I've already actually filmed that part. So the plan is get all the lacquer off. I will get it all sand smooth. We will replace the decal, which I have already got a replacement. That took some doing. I've put an extra 30 quid into this out of my own money so far, getting decals done. I went to a guy, long story short, went to a guy in Italy to get a replacement decal, and he says he could do one, and there you go. Because what sanding it, I tried to get it back to normal colour without sanding, so that is impossible. So I had a couple made in Italy. They come back both times, they were rubbish. The crap he sent me was just a waste of time, and I just said, look mate, forget it. I said, I don't want a refund, just leave it. And I went somewhere else and I found a guy called Al's Custom Decals, and he did me a decal as well, and he's the guy I went with, and he did a grand job. And this was another 12 quid. First, we've got exact replica, including the serial number. What do you think to that? Brilliant, that is really good. You'll see I've already done some sanding of these, get between these frets, and to do that I've been using basically a rubber or an eraser, a fret eraser for polishing frets with, which I don't use for polishing frets, wrapped with some sandpaper around there. But that in itself, a 240 grit, is putting lines in here, and the rubber doesn't fit between here. All will be explained in the next part of the video, so rather than me just babble on about it, let me get that glued to this part of the video. Try and make some order of the sections I've got, and we'll try and make a working video that ties in with the previous two we've done and makes it all look good. So next time you see this, it will be up on the jig, or not on the jig, it'll be in the vise. We'll have it all ready for sanding, and we'll crack on with that. Back soon. So sanding between the frets on this guitar has been a little bit worse, but not it. It's really, really difficult. What I need to do is make sure I do not go into the frets with the sandpaper, because I've already levelled, crowned and polished them. I'm going to have to re-polish them again anyway once the work is done. But the way I'm having to go between these frets is, ideally, I'll be using a fret rubber, one of these polishing rubbers, which I don't use for polishing, and I'll wrap sandpaper around there and go between them, which is what I'm going to do for the remaining frets. But I couldn't do it on these four because the rubber is too wide to fit the slot. So what I had to do is I had to cut a piece of plastic, stick some tape over it and glue, or double sticky tape, fix some sandpaper on there to get into the gaps like so. And it takes a while, it takes a while. This is 240 grit. And what I've got to do is, once I've done all this and got off all of the varnish, I'm going to have to go and do it all again with 400 grit to get rid of any lines that are in there, otherwise the lines are going to show. Now, I do intend to lacquer this fingerboard, again, using a light, I'm going to use a light teak colour, which I bought a while ago. And I'm going to put it on in very light, I might even dilute the coat slightly, because all I want to do really is give this a hint of colour, not anywhere as much as it had before. So that is where I'm at and what I'm doing. I can also show, I did get a replacement decal made by a guy who I discovered on, I think I found him on eBay, but I talked to the guy on Facebook. It's Owl's Custom Decals. And the one I'm going to use is this one. And it is an exact replica of the decal that's on there. We actually more or less took a photocopy and copied it exactly, so even the serial number is out of whack and out of line, just like the original. That is the perfect size. I've checked everything. That is the one that's going to go on the headstock. I've marked on it, use this. He did send me 3 of them in case we break any or blah 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 blah. He's also given instructions on how to affix said decal, so we've got enough to go out there. So it's just a matter of me sanding off all of this lacquer and getting the wood all smooth enough for me to reapply a different lacquer. We're going to get lines going across here, but at the end of the day, I don't suppose it matters. Once we've got it all varnished back up again, it's not going to matter too much because it's going to be smooth. The refret went perfectly well, as you can see. The frets are absolutely fine, they're all smooth, there's nothing sticking out. It's just a matter of me taking my time and doing this right. It has been a lot of work, and I'm doing this for free, so you know. But yeah, at the end of the day, I want to get it done right. Get this over to Beaver Guitars as and when. Like I say, getting into these edges has proved to be a little bit difficult because you want to get right in there. I have been going in just slightly with a very small file just to break it up, but I don't want to be causing any more scratches. Like I say, it is all going to be filled in with lacquer anyway, so we can, you know, that is going to make a big difference to these edges, and that is actually fine now. But what I'm going to do is, once that's done, is I will be cutting some 400 grit paper. We have a piece just there. I've got some scissors knocking about. I have, and I will just be going in with this lightly. I'm just going to cut a small piece now. I'm always going to cut a little bit slimmer than the fret itself, and there you go. I can just go in there. And ideally I'd want to be sanding this way, that way, but it's impossible. It's going to be impossible with the frets still in. Like I say, if I'd have had the frets, if I knew I was doing this job before the new frets were in, we could have gone that route. But this is, you know, that is really pretty good. Really smooth. We are gonna, that is going to work just fine. That feels really nice. One thing I do have to be careful of also is rounding over these edges coming to the edge of the fingerboard. We don't want that because we're going to end up scalloping the fingerboard, and we really do not want that. You know, so nice and gentle. Try and keep it flat at the edge like so. And there you go. And that really is not that bad. A little bit more still in at this edge. I'm going to try and remove all of this. What I aim to do is I'm not going to film the rest of this. I'm just going to crack on with it. Take my time. Nice and steady. That looks good, that feels good. Like I say, just be careful that I don't go over the frets again. Like I say, I will be polishing these frets again, but I don't want to remove anything of these frets because it is such a good fret job. And that is as smooth as anything. That will take lacquer really well. There's a bit of staining in there, and I'll try and get rid of that. So like I say, I will just take my time with this. The 400 grit sandpaper is going to work really well. I only need to do this just for a short amount of time. I talked to Clive Eastwood at Beaver Guitars about doing this because I've not done this before. I'm not a paint man, that's why I take all my paint and lacquer jobs to Beaver Guitars in Grantham there. He just said, look, take your time, get it nice and smooth, and he says, and when it comes to your 400 grit, he says that's what you're going to be using to smooth it all off. So, you know, just keep it all, you're going to remove all the lines. It's going to bring you a nice smooth finish. And again, that one is beautiful. So yeah, we are going to get there. It's just going to take me longer than I thought it would, but that's okay. It's all about the end result and getting this guitar better than the owner even dreamed of or ever dreamed of, and it will be better than he ever dreamed of because because I know the fret job is absolutely spot on. I'm going to get it looking absolutely great. So I shall come back and give you more of an update as and when. And I've decided now to end this part of the video because it's gone on long enough. One thing I forgot to mention, that I believe the guitar is 1983. Well, I went and checked the serial, and it being an E3 with a 5 digits, it basically dates the guitar between any time between 1982 and 1985. The guitar was built at the Fullerton plant, which I found out, but I've just since spotted on the neck, and I didn't mention it before, we have a date on there. June 25, 1984. So it's at least an 84 guitar, could be an 85. So when I sand all this down, this bit is going to be hidden by the guitar body anyway, so I'm going to keep this little bit intact. So we've still got that on there, and this name at this end as well, J Torres or whatever it is, I'm going to keep that intact. So that is it. So I've decided to end this part of the video, part 3. In part 4, I will have this neck ready to go to Beaver Guitars, to Mr. Clive Eastwood, where he can re-lacquer it. And once it's re-lacquered, we can blob on with getting the guitar all back together. Just sticking this decal in there. So that really is it. So this is, like I say, it's the end of part 3. So, as always, be good to each other. Before that, make sure you come back in part 4, because it's going to be an interesting one. But like I say, be good to each other. I'll see you soon.